The National Road Authority has begun to address the road construction tax ahead of the 2022 OIC Summit. The WHO has renewed call for fair distribution of COVID-19 vaccines as developing countries continue to hustle for vaccines. And ex-President Jammeh used Gambia's justice system for personal gains, according to former Solicitor General. Well, this and more coming your way in this week. It's 2000 hours from our studios in Banjul. This is Africa TV. Many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kantia. Now the news in detail. Now, the National Road Authority on Friday led construction experts to OIC road project sites within the Greater Banjul areas to attract competitive proposals. The site visit was meant to give the contractors first-hand information on the location and environmental features of the places where state-of-the-art road networks is expected ahead of the 2022 meeting of Muslim countries across the world. Our reporter Amindao was on the tour and she files in this report.
Roads project measuring 50 kilometers is one of the key priorities for the hosting of the Organization of Islamic Conference in the Gambia. The infrastructure covers 20 new roads across the Greater Banjul area, together with the expansion of the battle-hardened highway. As the work began in earnest, the National Road Authority and the OIC Gambia Secretariat took the opportunity to lead experts in the field to all construction sites for note-taking. Keba Traore from the National Road Authority said the visit was necessary as it would guide them to a competitive proposal.
So this process is an obligatory step. It's part of the tender process, okay? So in order to give the contractors the feel of the site so that they can prepare a very competitive proposal, okay, it is obligatory for us to take them to the site so that they see the different conditions on each site.
Traore described the quality of roads being planned for the OIC and future development of the Gambia.
The impact initially might be somehow, it may affect them in a way that might not be expected. In the long run, it will be a positive impact because we want to put in standard routes, okay, according to international specifications, standard specifications. The right-of-way for standard roads are already established. We have different cross-sections for different routes, okay? So we want to have routes that will accommodate the existing and the future traffic for the next 20 years. And also we want to provide an infrastructure that is safe for the residents. So in the long run, it's gonna be positive for all the residents. So we appeal to their understanding and cooperation.
Ibrahim Akuli, the OIC project manager, elaborated on the issue of delay in the start of the road construction aspect in the preparation to host the OIC summit.
Everything we had to do from our side, from the consultant side, was done, right? But these are funds that are not Gambia government's own. We have to seek for approvals from the other end. So you will send it over, they will look at it, respond back to you. Maybe they will recommend here some changes here and there. So you have to do that and send it back. So that is actually the main cause of this delay, right? Now the tender has started, like Mr. Traore has said. It takes time. By mid-April, the tender will be closed. Evaluations will come in. And then you also have to send it back again for approval. Then they will say, okay, fine, you can then negotiate with the best, most responsive. So we're looking at now April, May at least for works to start. Yes, April it's out of it because you only have 2 weeks in April to do the evaluations and then start the negotiations prior to signing up of the contract.
The OIC tender process was officially launched on 15 March with more than 15 contractors showing keen interest for the projects. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation is the second largest intergovernmental organization with a membership of 57 states across the world. The OIC Islamic Summit is attended by rulers and heads of states and government of its member states, during which policy decisions are made and all issues pertaining to the realization as provided for by the OIC chapter are discussed. The 15 Heads of State and Government Summit is scheduled in the Gambia next year, with 6 priority projects including the road construction being identified. The Sadauda Kairaba Jawara International Conference Center, which was inaugurated in January 2020 by President Adama Barrow, and the ongoing airport and terminal renovation are among the major infrastructures planned for the event. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Amindao.
OIC roads projects visited by experts ahead of next year's convergence in Banjul. Now, the World Health Organization has called on countries and partners globally to immediately share 10 million doses of COVAX-led COVID-19 vaccines to poorer nations. Globally, many countries have started administering COVID-19 doses, while others, including 10 in Africa, are yet to receive any. WHO urged for more equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines in all parts of the world. Mariama Cham tells us more of that in this report.
Deliveries of vaccine supplies under the COVAX program started in February this year. Since then, 44 African countries have received vaccines through the facility or through donations and bilateral agreements, and 32 of them have begun vaccinations. But WHO argues that there is more to be done to widen the reach around the continent. The Africa Center for Disease Control says shipments from the scheme account for close to 90% of the doses delivered to the continent by mid-March. However, it says the continent is facing significant challenges in securing continued access to these vaccines. Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, Director General of WHO, recognized that sharing doses is a tough political choice, and governments need the support of their people.
Getting all countries started by day 100 is a solvable problem. COVAX needs 10 million doses immediately as an urgent stopgap measure, so these 20 countries can start vaccinating their health workers and older people within the next 2 weeks. So today I'm asking countries with doses of vaccines that have WHO emergency use listing to donate as many doses as they can to help us meet that target. And I'm asking manufacturers to help ensure these countries can rapidly donate those doses.
The COVAX initiative has so far delivered more than 20 million vaccine doses to more than half of the countries on the continent. WHO boss emphasized that the more countries donate soon, the more they will share with countries in need. Dr. Tedros says vaccine diplomacy, export bans, among other factors, have caused distortion.
COVAX is ready to deliver, but we can't deliver vaccines we don't have. As you know, bilateral deals, export bans, vaccine nationalism, and vaccine diplomacy have caused distortions in the market, with gross inequities in supply and demand. Increased demand for vaccines has led to delays in securing tens of millions of doses that COVAX was counting on.
Dr. Maria Van Kahoff, Health Emergencies Program Technical Lead, says there are signs of increasing transmission around the world.
We are seeing signs of increasing transmission around the world. And there's a number of there's a number of factors that are associated with this. We are not out of this pandemic. The pandemic is not over. I know we are over it, but it is not over us. We are still in the acute phase of this pandemic, where in many parts of the world, the virus is still in control of our lives. We are not in control of the virus. That is not true all over the world. Some countries have actually shown that we can control COVID with the tools at hand, with the addition of vaccination. But in fact, some countries have actually controlled COVID without vaccination yet.
The WHO says it is concerned that countries that received initial shipments could soon be running out of doses. Ghana and Rwanda are close to using up the doses they received. Ghana had received 600,000 doses through COVAX and has so far used more than 420,000 of them, while Rwanda just got under 400,000 doses, some via the COVAX scheme, and so far vaccinated more than 320,000 people. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Mariama Cham.
The WHO again calls for fair distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine as some poorer countries continues to struggle for the COVID-19 vaccines. Now, Bankole Yao Jojo Alaji alias Banki, the new arrival into the Gambian politics scene, has raised no objection to decriminalization of cannabis in the Gambia. The Rastaman, by virtue of his dreadlocks, who identified free education, job creation as his priority, also pledged to support any legislation that would legalize the consumption of marijuana herbs in the country. Omar Ahmad Toure has more details of that in this report.
Mr. Banki took examples of countries like Uganda and Morocco that earns billions from the sale of cannabis to justify his passion for industrial revolution using homemade resources once he takes up the job at the State House in Banjul. Presenting a logical reasoning, the Rastaman questions the justification of police arrest on cannabis smokers when people are allowed to drink alcohol, smoke cigarettes, and serve as prostitutes in the same Gambia.
Me, Banki, I believe in legalizing cannabis. Me, Banki. Now, legalizing it in Gambia is a national thing. It has to go through parliament. Now, why do I believe in legalizing it? Because the UN has decriminalized cannabis. Because the WHO is calling for studies on the medical benefits of cannabis. If we are going to allow alcohol, we are going to allow cigarettes, we are going to allow prostitution, then bailan natin too. Economically, places like Uganda, places like Morocco are making billions from selling cannabis.
In 2019, the UN Commission on Narcotic Drugs voted to remove cannabis from Schedule 4 of the 1961 Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs, to which the strictest control measures apply. A door recognizing the herb for its medicinal benefit was then opened, although its use for non-scientific purposes remained illegal. Currently, more than 50 countries have adopted medicinal cannabis programs, while Canada, Uruguay, and 15 US states have legalized its recreational usage. In Africa, countries like Malawi, Zambia, and Zimbabwe are among the list of cannabis users for medicinal purposes. The global market for medical cannabis is currently estimated at $150 billion, which is projected to hit $272 billion in 2028, according to Barclays Bank. The Mboka Kunda politician, who believes in one term in office, took notice of the unfortunate situation of many Gambians in their struggle to attain formal education.
Imagine a Gambia where no child has to pay for education while you're getting educated, but when you graduate and you're productive and you're working, you contribute back to the fund that funded your education so that the current crop of students will get an education. Our brains are our only resource in Gambia. So let's not hinder those brains from developing to full potential. Free education, I think, is my #1 priority.
The internet engineer at the Medical Research Council says he should not be judged by his dreadlocks instead of the ideas he has to run the country. The aspiring candidate started his career at the Gambia Technical Training Institute, GTTI, in the Civil Engineering Lab, where he taught maths and science to diploma and certificate students. For iAfrica TV, I am Omar Ahmad Toure.
And from the report there by Omar Ahmad Toure on Gambian politics, as one of the candidates there talks to the media ahead of the December 4th presidential elections, now to matters of the TRRC. Now, the former Solicitor General, Cherno Marena, has said that former Gambian leader used a divide and rule tactics to control the country's legal system. Mr. Marena, who appeared before the Truth Commission on Thursday, explained how Jammeh exploited the justice sector for personal gains. Khadija Seka has more details of that in this report.
The former Solicitor General, Cherno Marena, outlined how Jammeh used people working in the judiciary to be his eyes and ears. According to Mr. Marena, the former Gambian leader would appoint his trusted allies to key positions so that they can inform him of the activities in the judiciary. He said Jammeh used the relationship he had with these allies to interfere with the country's legal system.
I think it was part of the wider strategy of divide and rule, basically. So certainly both at the Ministry of Justice and probably at the judiciary as well. Jammeh made use of the personal relationships he had with lawyers. I mean, to basically, make sure that he is able to have full control over, these legal institutions.
Judicial independence, prerequisite for a society to operate on the basis of the rule of law, and it's essential for the purpose of maintaining public confidence in the judiciary. To Mr. Marena, Jammeh himself does not believe in the independence of the judiciary because their remunerations are paid by the executive.
Certainly. In fact, I did hear at one point President Jammeh himself say he doesn't believe in the independence of the judiciary. That he pays the judiciary. You cannot have independence when they are being paid by the government.
During Jammeh's era, he reportedly hired judges from foreign countries commonly known as mercenary judges, most of whom were operating under the directives of Jammeh. The former Solicitor General is with the view that the Gambia should never accommodate these types of judges, except the request of technical judges by government from other benches around the world. Khadija Seka, Africa News.
Gambia's former Solicitor General, Cherno Manera, who appeared before the TRC on Thursday, of course, was part of the many witnesses who appeared before the Commission over the week, bringing another end of the Commission's testimony, that is the week. And with that, we will now take a break and come back shortly with the remainder of the story. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put into constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia, it's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Kololi Sands is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
Welcome back. This is Africa TV, and once again, thanks for joining us. Now, the Gambia Union of Theatre on Saturday joined the rest of the world to celebrate World Theatre Day on the theme, Theatre as a Means of Employment. This year, GAMUD saw it necessary to remember both fallen and living theatre legends who have contributed immensely to the growth of theatre in the Gambia. Fatmata Kasim tells us more of that in this report.
World Theatre Day was initiated in 1962 by International Theatre Institute. It is celebrated annually on the 27th of March by the ITI and the international theatre communities. Various national and international theatre events are organized to mark this occasion to emphasize the importance of this day. Mam Demba Sise, president of the Gambia Union of Theatre, raised concerns about the Gambia being the only country without the requisite infrastructure to boost the art industry.
And unless and until we start getting money from theatre, when theatre starts to notice its people, then we are not having a good industry. To say, theatre as a means of employment comprises so many components that we should explore and then bring it into reality. Gambia at a stand is, I believe, the only nation that don't have an infrastructure that belongs to theater arts. That belongs to theater arts. And now is the time to definitely call to the government. When we change, to say we're changing for the better, is now our time to have a theater hall. I mean, a multi-purpose theater hall for the whole Gambia to learn about theater, to know about theater, to do theater.
Sheikh Omar Jallow, Director of Creative and Performing Arts, described theatre as a way of life that has the potential to generate employment opportunities and a better standard of living for specialists. The National Center for Arts and Culture, he said, is working to establish an art space to strengthen the work of artists in the country.
The good news that I will give on behalf of the NCAC and the National Center for Arts and Culture is we are, of course, forging and working so hard to be able to establish an art space. An art space is somewhere where you can establish and showcase your works, because this is one of the things that is lacking in this country. The reason why theater and most of those things worked in Senegal and it's by virtue of they have an art space. And of course, we are also working on to make sure that there is a curriculum, a training program that will also be pushed into the tertiary institutions.
He also pledged the development of curriculum and training programs to push theatre in institutions ahead in developing perspective. The NCAC in 2019 launched the first ever youth and trade roadmap for the Gambia's creative industry with the aim to support innovation and production capacity of small and medium enterprises. For iAfrica News, I am Fatoumata Kasim.
The Gambia joins the rest of the world to celebrate World Theatre Day. And from the report there by Fatmata Kasim, finally now, the UN humanitarians on March 26 announced the arrival of 2 Eritrean refugee camps in Ethiopia's war-torn Tigray region for the first time since fighting began in November. Spokesperson of the United Nations High Commission of Refugee told reporters in Geneva that all the humanitarian facilities in northern Ethiopia were shattered. Umar Ahmad Toure again in this report.
The mission conducted jointly by UNHCR and the UN Humanitarian Coordination Wing (OCHA) found most shelters in the Hitsats camp as well as the UN offices and the staff guest house razed to the ground in Tigray.
UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, has gained access to the Shemelba and Hitsas refugee camps in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region for the first time since November 2020 amid ongoing security concerns. During a joint mission to the area with the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, we found both camps completely destroyed and all the humanitarian facilities looted and vandalized.
The United Nations Refugee Agency UNHCR called for protection of residents of Simelba and Hitsats camps, which were attacked by armed men who killed and abducted refugees. Over 20,000 refugees used to live in these camps prior to the crisis, and more than 7,000 have moved to the other 2 Eritrean refugee camps. The refugees from these places are believed to be scattered and are in urgent need of safety and support.
All of the displaced people in Shiraro and Shemelba are in dire need of urgent life-saving assistance, including food, shelter, healthcare, water, and sanitation. UNHCR reiterates the joint UN call for all parties to urgently enable the free and safe movement of affected people in search of safety and assistance, including across international and within national borders, regardless of their ethnic identification.
The UNHCR has scaled up staff in the areas and are working with Ethiopian partners on modalities to deliver aid to the refugees and work out plans for voluntary relocation. The latest attack comes amid calls from the senior UN officials to end the fighting and the Human Rights Commission's announcement on a plan to investigate violations by all parties to the conflict. The Tigray conflict began in November 2020 with the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front and the Ethiopian National Defense Forces on the opposing ends. The removed Tigrayan regional authorities accused Eritrean troops of operating on Ethiopian territory and intervening on behalf of the central government in Addis Ababa. However, Eritrea and Ethiopia have both denied the allegations. For iAfrica TV, I am Omar Ahmad Toure.
The UN supporting the victims of the Ethiopian Tigray crisis there after what has been a very unfortunate situation. And with that, we finally bring this news edition to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, you can visit on our website on africa.tv. But for now, though, many thanks for the privilege of your company. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and bye for now.